Start by saying that I am not Vanessa Camargo, but this is going to be in English because that's how I teach my kids, and that's how I that's how I teach. I'm a teacher in English, so that's how it goes. So get ready, you know. Okay, it's not that many people, so if I could ask people around to come closer, let's make this cozier. Yeah, can I ask you guys to move further forward? Yes, we can all share some sweat and smell bad together. That was good. I like that. Cool. Thank you to the people moving forward. Cool. Cool. Okay. People in the back, if you want to move forward, yeah, let's move forward. Let's move stronger. Let's sweat. Let's sweat a little bit. Yeah. I made a point about not wearing deodorant today, so you can all Cool, so how are we feeling today? How are we feeling today? Doors closed, yeah? Everybody alive, everybody doing well, okay? Imperialism has won. Look at this shit. I'm Brazilian, you're Brazilian, and this is happening in English. Well, let's celebrate that. At the Latin American Mensa gathering, well, that's a loss. I'm sorry, guys, the United States fucking won. Yeah. Holy shit. Okay, whatever. Psychometrics is the topic we're going to be talking about, and I don't know why people don't talk about this all the time. So, how many of you here, by show of hands, ever heard of the Big 5 personality test? By show of hands. That's a minority. Shout out to y'all. Beautiful. But yeah, so the Big 5 is this inventory that measures personality, and it's it's beautiful, okay, to be quite honest with you. It's the best thing that has ever happened to my life after Mensa, probably. And it is related to Mensa, so we're going to get to that. Okay, by the end of this crash course, you will know why. Myers-Briggs, the 16 personality test. You know that ENTJ, INFP, my personality is the same as Steve Jobs' personality, so I'm special. That test you take on the internet. I'm going to tell you why that test is outdated, why Big 5 is better than that, and why Mensa is awesome, because it's actually connected to those things. Yeah, look at that. That's excitement, man. Exactly. Wow. Thank you. Cool. All right. So, yeah, this is Myers-Briggs, also known as MBTI, okay? And how many of you know this test? So how many of you have taken this test? Oh, yes! Of course everybody took this test, right? Of course everybody took this one, right? Yeah. Would you take, how many of you know your zodiac sign also, by the way? Yeah. Yeah, good, because it's the same shit, all right? Okay, that's a blunt statement. I'm sorry. If any of you love Myers-Briggs here, I'll try to convince you until the end of the lecture. I think Myers-Briggs is valuable, okay? I think it's got its value. It's got its perks. The good thing with Myers-Briggs is that it makes you feel special. Because there's no wrong with Myers-Briggs. It's always right. It's always beautiful. Oh yeah, man, I'm an ESTP. And they all have names, right? So if you're an ESTP, so if you don't know what this means, just very quickly, you got 4 sort of variables, and out of those 4 variables, you take a test and you decide whether you're extroverted, introverted, sensing, or intuitive, thinking or feeling, judging or perceiving type of person. And based on these 4 variables, you connect them, and you have a sequence of 4 letters. And then people rejoice, because it's I remember when I found my test, my results. I was ENTJ. And then you go and you Google, and that's what happened to me. The Steve Jobs example was exactly what happened to me, I go and I look it up, and I'm like, oh, I got the same personality as Steve Jobs. How proud. It's never fucking Hitler or some shit like that. It's always amazing people, right? So my point is that you can't always be special. You can't always be awesome. We have to agree that we set some parameters with capitalism, which kind of sucks sometimes, but we set some parameters of who's winning and who's losing. And it's better if we determine who's winning and who's losing according to some sort of dimension. So, yeah, we don't like that. We don't like Myers-Briggs, okay? Let's think of a better approach. Myers-Briggs came up with thousands and thousands of interviews of a mom and a daughter. I think their last name was Myers-Briggs, or personality inventory, but I think it was Myers-Briggs. I think their last name wasn't personality inventory. And they conducted a bunch of research, interviews, and then they just compiled those results with like something that they thought made sense. Okay, but that was their opinion, you know, and they might as well go to, you know, Sonia Abrão, like, to express their opinions, because I don't give a fuck. Okay, sorry, this is a cursing lecture, if you haven't realized yet. Fuck. Okay, yes. Okay, so why don't we use adjectives? Why don't we use adjectives instead? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, the translation people are having to translate my cursing. Thank you. I love this. I hope that went well. Okay. Okay. So adjectives. Why don't we start with adjectives? So the thing is, we have historically, you know, we've been talking about language. Language was developed to sort of measure what's real out there. And when people talk about themselves, when I ask you, hey, who are you? You say, oh, my name is Carlos, or whatever, right? And then, yeah, okay. And then, if your name's Carlos, I'm gonna ask you, what's up with you, Carlos? And you're like, oh, I'm super enthusiastic, or I'm a happy person. I'm a violinist, I don't know. But like, you always use some adjectives to describe yourself, yeah? So, the thought here was, why don't we just get a bunch of statements of people talking about their own, well, like themselves, right? So, look at these statements. These are statements that people usually use to describe themselves, right? Like, I'm original, come up with ideas, I value artistic and aesthetic experiences, but let's not limit it to like cool adjectives. Let's just think of whatever adjectives, okay? Can you think of any adjective? Like, I'm like awesome, or I'm special, or I'm afraid, I'm a coward. Just think of whatever adjectives you could think. Make a huge list of those adjectives, and then we can have people react to those adjectives with 1 to 7 Likert scales. Yeah, so if you guys have never heard of Likert scales, this is how it works. You've seen Likert scales in your lives. So we have something like strongly disagree, all the way to strongly agree. And then you have neutral in the middle, and then you have like a bunch of other labels here. So this is like disagree, somewhat disagree, agree, somewhat agree, all right? So 1 to 7, this is 4, this is 7. And we just get these 200 statements, and we get a bunch of people all over the world to like describe themselves from 1 to 7, okay? So I'm gonna ask you, and everyone's gonna tell me for all of these adjectives what they think. It's Mensa. I know we got it the first time. Thank you. Okay, so after we do that, we run this process called exploratory factor analysis. Oh yes, thank you, Lord, for blessing us with exploratory factor analysis. This is amazing, okay? This is a statistical method that assumes that if we find some sort of variance that tends to repeat itself. Oh, are you a statistician? You're nodding a lot. You're nodding a lot, man. I hope you're having a good time. So, if you find someone who's had a high scores, among similar statements, you could assume that that's coming from some latent variable. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean that if I see someone saying, I like to go to parties, I'm happy, I am enthusiastic, I like to talk to people, all of these statements are going to cluster together because they're all coming from something that caused each of these 4 statements to correlate. What's that something? We don't know. And it doesn't matter. Okay? But it's something that's causing these things to correlate a lot. So these 4 statements that I just told you about, I'm happy, I'm outgoing, I like going to parties, I like talking to people, I'm enthusiastic. Those form the personality trait extroversion, which we all know, which we've heard of. And actually, by the way, it was something something back in the days with Myers-Briggs. That's one thing they got right. Okay, intuitively, intuition is beautiful. These people with no computers whatsoever, no statistical analysis, they got to extroversion, introversion as a spectrum. That was me. But they got three other random things that kind of don't mean anything. Sorry. Okay? So, with exploratory factor analysis, we're looking for these underlying factors in reality. And when you run these things, looks complicated, but all that this is just literally the adjectives, so creative, imaginative, curious, adventurous, clustered under a single factor. Okay, so all of these things cluster under these separate factors. And like, suddenly we get access to, roughly what we're going to do is, each one of these factors is a different Likert scale, okay, from 1 to 7. So let's say you have like happy, and then somebody answers that, and then you have enthusiastic. Okay? Let's say my personal score for this, for happy, is like a 5, okay? And then my personal score for enthusiastic is 6. If these two are part of extroversion, what are we going to do to get my extroversion score? Literally get an average, okay? 5 plus 6. My extroversion score is 5.5 out of 7. And then we just correct that with a percentile to make it 100%. Okay, so yeah, if you divide this in a calculator, what's this in decimals, guys? Like, does anybody have a calculator easy? 5.5 divided by 7. What's the decimal?
78.
78. Okay, so I know in this case that I'm in the 78th percentile of extroversion. That means I am more extroverted than 78% of the population. Dude, this is data. This shit's real. You got what I mean? Like, we measured it. We went out there, we asked people, and 78% of them scored less than this. Huh, if only there was an organization that, like, measured something and then selected the top 2% of those people to hang out together. Oh, dude, that's Mensa. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's the end of the lecture. We're gonna get there in a second, okay? But okay, so like, is this too abstract or insane? Like, how are we feeling? How are we? Is this too slow, too repetitive? Are we like pumped? Let's fuck. Okay, cool. So then, when you run this center factor analysis, these are some statements that actually form the big five. So you can read those statements, and those form the top 5 factors that are clustered in this big analysis that was done cross-culturally, repeated over and over and over and over and over again, replicated, and they keep finding the same 5 clusters. It's insane. Like, do you understand? This is a computer finding these clusters. It's not like someone's opinion. It's like over and over and over. Okay, so you write these statements, and yeah, let's cover some of them. We're going to cover some of them in detail, but you can see they form the acronym OCEAN. Okay, open-mindedness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Let's discuss them. Okay, that was yeah. They're also normally distributed. So yeah, if you guys know about normal distribution, it's great. We had a cut time, so I don't think we're going to be talking about normal distributions, but like, yeah, they're all normally distributed, which is great. I like that you nod too. You nod a lot. Yeah, do you know this stuff? Thank you. Oh, cool. That makes me happy. Okay, cool. Let's talk about conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is actually, it's not consciousness. It's actually called conscientiousness. It's a mouthful and it's correct. I double checked. Okay. Okay. So that's going to measure how orderly and industrious you are. And because it's a spectrum, most people fall in the 50th percentile. Isn't that insane? So, like, I bring this one first because knowledge about the big 5 is actually very useful if you're talking to your spouse about the dishes, okay? Because your number one fight in couples probably is like, oh, you're too dirty or whatever. Yeah, and then I randomly pointed at someone and said, you're dirty. No, that's not, I didn't, whatever, yeah, fine. Okay, so like, you're too dirty, yeah? But then, what does it mean to be too dirty? All that means, and let's use the flip chart again. All of that means, guys, oh, here we go, these damn postmodernists. There's no right or wrong anymore in society. Okay, look, all of that means is that maybe Mikey is here and Janet is here. It's not that Janet is insanely messy. It's just that in the spectrum of conscientiousness, I could have chosen any word to write down. It's the fucking longest, Jesus. Okay, but then, that was the one. Okay, but Janet, it's just like, she's just like probably in the, that's roughly what, is that the third, is that the 20, let's see, she's in the 40th percentile, okay? 40th percentile. Maybe this dude is in the 60th percentile. So, yeah, like, Mikey is fighting Janet, saying, Janet, you're messy. And he's right, you know? Relative to the mean of 50, Janet is messy. But like, she's just a person. You get what I mean? It's just evolution. Everything in nature is normally distributed. Janet as well. And I love Janet. We need Janet, okay? We need this guy also, and this guy, okay? We need everybody. By the way, it's not like it's better to be conscientiousness. This does predict lifetime success, by the way. So if you're conscientious, it means you have a higher ability to delay gratification. Okay? So you're more able to like achieve things in life and stuff like that. Basically, if you're ADHD, you're all the way low. That's why you're telling me about your scores being low? Yeah. That's 3, yeah. This dude's in the 3rd percentile of conscientiousness. He's flat. He can't do anything, probably. I don't know. Probably starts a task and goes right to the next one. And that's why we fucking love you, man. I fucking need it. I swear to God. I swear to God, we need you. Like nature needs you. You got what I mean? So, yeah, dude, Janet, Mikey, just get fucking over it, man. Like, Mikey, you're organized, I get it. Take some responsibility for your fucking 60th percentile conscientiousness. You get annoyed with the dishes, I don't know, get a cleaning lady, or like, go clean them, I don't know. Janet is just living by herself, I don't know. I might be Janet, so, yeah. Okay, here we go. So, conscientiousness is done. Extroversion is the second one. Okay. I like talking to people. I like going to parties. When I talk to people, I have a lot of positive emotion, and I have this will to just connect to people randomly. I'm like always like, let's have a conversation. That's extroversion, okay? Cool. It goes from extroversion to introversion. Also normally distributed. So we can also think of extroversion Janet, extroversion Mikey, for example. The beautiful thing with this is that you have new scores every time, you got what I mean? And it's always a percentile. So it's not like a Libra sign that doesn't mean anything. It's like, okay, measure this, and everyone can take this on the internet, actually. It's free, and it's super insightful. If you like staying at home and you don't like going to parties, you're probably lower in your extroversion. You're probably closer to, you know, I don't know, 7 percentile or something. Like, you just stay at home all the time. That's fine. So extroversion, I'm not going to take a long time here because I think we get that one. It's quite obvious. Agreeableness is another one that's measuring how much you prioritize relationships over being right. So if you, have you ever like done like a school project with a person who's like always wants it their way and they're like super mean to you when you propose anything else? Right? Okay, that's you. Don't. This man's agreeable. This man's disagreeable. Yeah, this man's disagreeable, right? So, being disagreeable is like, let's say you're in the 7th percentile of disagreeable, or agreeableness, right? It's just who this dude is, and it's fine. And we need this dude. I swear to God, if there's like a zombie apocalypse and we need to negotiate resources, get this dude out there. Get this dude out there. Right? Don't get like fucking, what? Her name. Maybe her name is like Stacy. See, she's. No, don't get Stacy to negotiate. Okay? Cool. So, agreeableness is also lifetime success to a certain extent. It's important for you to negotiate. So, it's something that people like, like to pump up their big five and like, oh, I'm big five. It's up to you, whatever. There's no right or wrong. But good. Remember this, okay? This time you're in the average, you'll survive because it's nature, right? Sorry. These people die. So these people are more alive. It's good to be average. It's because think about it. I'm extroverted, right? I go talk to people sometimes, and I'm like, "Hey," and they go like, "Bah." That was, yeah. Yeah. So one last. Yeah, it's nature, like self-regulating, right? Is predominance of negative emotion, as I described there, but it's sort of like, I like to define it as how long does it take for you to recover from something shitty happening to you. And that also correlates with like depression and anxiety, okay? So if you score higher in neuroticism, which is my case also, man, go get yourself some like self-emotions management workshop or something. It really helps. Because it's like, whenever, and that's the problem, right? Because I'm extroverted. So when I go talk to people and they're like shit on my face, I'm like devastated for 3 hours, okay? And then, because I'm up here. So like, neuroticism is that. But have you ever met those people who are like, oh, okay. Like someone just yelled at them and they're just like, yeah, okay. Like those are people very low neuroticism, right? That's who? That's you? No, that was you too? Man, watch it. Be careful, okay? Okay, cool. Are we ready? Yeah? Finally, open-mindedness. Open-mindedness is the 5th trait. And this trait is the best. We might wonder why. Hey, by show of hands, how many of you is interested in arts, philosophy, and abstraction? Oh, isn't that a little over-representative of the population of planet Earth? Yes, because open-mindedness is correlated with IQ. Right, think about this shit. Oh man, I structured this differently, but like, yes, we are all top IQ, right? Top 2 percentile IQ in the world. So we're all gonna be very, very high in open-mindedness as well. If we took our average here, it's definitely like, at least 70th percentile and up, if not higher, okay, in this room. My personal argument with open-mindedness is it's the weirdest cluster, but I'm going to show you it's the most strongly correlated cluster out of all of them. What that means is that this is the most defining factor of personality out there. That's why we're fucked in the world when we try to talk to people. Because nobody gets us, because we're all high in this shit. And then we try to talk to people like, hey, I'm into arts and philosophy, and they're like, oh, sure. Because Vasco da Gama is doing an amazing campaign this year. We need less Vasco and more philosophy, probably. Sorry, Vasco. Vascaínos. Okay, cool. Deep breath. What about IQ? So that's the thing. IQ is this thing also, right? So IQ is formed in a similar way. That's... actually, let's go back to this later. Hold on. Let me just go back to this screen. So now that we know all 5 of the big 5, right? You can see the initials here, right? So the most strongly correlated factor is open-mindedness. And those are the 3 items. Those are the exact items in this inventory. There's many inventories, just like IQ. There's many ways of measuring this. There's there's 5 similar. So there's a bunch of different IQ tests. There's a bunch of big 5 inventories that we can use to measure. This is just one of them. And these are the actual questions that we're asking people to strongly agree or disagree with. Look at these 3. It's like the most highly strongly correlated because they're ranked, right? So factor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you do data science, you understand what this means. If you don't, it's fine. Like, whatever. But like, this is factor 1 and so on. 2, 3, 4, 5. But like, agreeableness is the second one, conscientiousness is the third one, extroversion, and then the last one is ES, but that's neuroticism. It's they just framed it differently. They framed it as emotional stability. Yeah. Okay, so we can look at all of this. The interesting thing here is that you can compare yourself to other people, okay, in the world. And that's insightful. I don't care if I have the same personality as Steve Jobs. You know, don't give me another test that's going to make me feel special. Give me something, right? Don't give me this. Give me something that I can work with. Give me something that I can use to improve who I am. Okay? So I strongly recommend that everyone here take this test. The Big 5 you already did. Super, super insightful. Okay, so all of these things. And then finally, what about IQ? And then IQ uses the same methods. So IQ was derived, actually, when some people noticed that, like, I'm not a specialist in IQ. I'm suspecting the people nodding at me are, but, like, IQ started out when some people noticed that all the kids that were good at English, they're also good at geography, sciences, and math, and they're like, whoa, what's happening here? Maybe there's some underlying factor that's, like, predicting all of that, right? So that's what they call the G factor, because it's the underlying factor behind all of that. The G factor, which is IQ, is correlated with brain mass, which is crazy. So like the size of your brain influences your IQ. And it's not the only thing, by the way. There's a nutrition. So it breaks my heart when I think about Brazil, because I think there's a lot of people who just don't get to develop their IQ to the fullest because of lack of nutrition. But yeah, the G factor is also correlated with brain size. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, remember that slide that I wrote earlier, which was like, we're looking for underlying factors in reality? It turns out that open-mindedness is correlated with IQ, which is correlated with brain size. I know it's a stretch, dear academics, okay, we can talk about it later, but like, what I'm trying to tell you is that this is, although we're just asking people to report their language perception of themselves, we're still capturing their brain size through their words. And that's insane to think about. Like, just take a moment to process that, it's crazy. Okay, so, and there's also like some other theories. So people are gonna say that neuroticism or conscientiousness is connected exactly to dopamine and how that interacts with your ability to delay gratification, as I mentioned earlier. Some people are going to tell me that extroversion is correlated with serotonin. I'm not a neuroscience person, so if you're a neuroscience person, help me correct that later. But like they seem to be connected to some real underlying factor. But just so we leave this lecture feeling super special, like, open-mindedness is the number one. So like, that's cool, right? That means that we really have something in common. So the example that I like to give people is like, imagine there was a world organization for the top 2 percentile extroversion. Like, people would just be super excited to talk at each other all the time. But like, the topics would suck, honestly. I don't know. Because like, people would just have different interests, right? So, yeah, the thing with open-mindedness, I think Mensa works because we're an open-mindedness organization, actually, in terms of personality. That's why we all like see ourselves in each other or whatever. Okay, that's not thank you forever yet. I have a demo that I'd like to show you just how you run this, like, and it's gonna take 3 minutes. Okay. Sorry people, I'm taking over your computers. Okay, so this here you see is a data set of like some statements measuring client satisfaction, okay, with the service. And you can just run factor analysis with anything, okay? If you just collect like people's statements and you run into, okay, I'm exaggerating. There's like some assumptions you need to meet, and statisticians, please come beat me up at the end of this lecture. But like, hey, I'm democratizing this. You can download this thing and run your own surveys and collect your data. So basically, if you look at data, you can see this is just data from different people. Some of them are labeled as fully agree, fully disagree, but they all go from 1 to 7, as you can see. And then we have all the variables here. And then all we can do is now add all of these variables, toss them onto the analysis. I teach statistics, by the way. I didn't tell you this, but this is what I do professionally. So, yeah. Okay. So, and then here you see the exact same screen we just saw. Okay. So let's quickly analyze these factors and see what they mean. Okay. And factor analysis is a fun exercise for you Mensans who love to deal with semantics, because mathematically we saw that these items cluster together. So let's look at them. Contact fitting jobs. My contact. So this is a survey that was ran among people who were receiving, I think it was like government support, unemployment benefits, and they had to go to the city hall and speak to whatever person about their unemployment benefits. Okay, so the clusters that we find here are contact fitting jobs, contact motivates, contact takes time, contact interviews. If you just read these statements, we don't have to go through all of them. They're all about the contact person. And we're not surprised that they're first of all, the #1 factor, so the strongest factor here. And they're also, well, because they're the #1 factor, they're also highly correlated, right? But then, yeah, like, the underlying reality here is that the contact person is either awesome or not, right? Sometimes you might, some of these, it doesn't mean that all the contact people were amazing. It means that all of the contact people that were amazing for all of these questions, and all the contact people that sucked scored very low for all these questions, right? From the perspective of the customer, or the citizen, whatever. Okay, so then the second factor is just measuring how clear the information was. So if you read clear my rights, it's clear to me what my rights are. Difficult information has negative loading, which is here because difficult is the opposite of clear. Okay, so it's clustered negatively, but whatever. Like it works fine. We just reverse code that later. If you have questions about this, we can talk about it later. But I was told clearly. So like you see, like this is clarity. Do you guys want to try to guess what these three are measuring? So taking seriously is here, reception friendly is here, and privacy account is up there. What do you think this one means semantically? What's the underlying word that's connecting all three?
Safety.
Safety. You think safety? Right. There's something about safety. Do we have another guess of what's that potentially measuring? Personal information. Privacy. I wouldn't use the word privacy because there's the word friendly there. I understand safety, I understand privacy. Trust. Yeah, it's something like trust, right? It's something like trust or respect. It's something about how they perceive the city hall as handling this whole scenario. So we could call this trust, and we could get an average of everyone's scores for these three questions, and that's the trust inventory, okay, or the trust factor, factor 3. What about this last one? I love this last one, okay? Agreements are followed through, so this statement. Contact as promised, that's maybe further down, which means, it just means that they did the contact as promised, or the contact person did as promised. Clear procedures, I don't know if that's up there, that's probably further lower.
Fulfillment.
What was that?
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment, for sure, maybe, right? The agreements are followed through, they did it as promised, there's clear fulfillment. They're fulfilling their orders, right? That's probably how they perceive. The interesting thing here is if you actually read the statements, the researchers had a different intention.
right? They thought that agreements follow through was going to fall under respect. They thought the contact person that does this promise was going to fall under contact, and they thought that clear procedures was going to fall under respect, trust. But they failed. Okay? So even if George Soros was funding this research, they wouldn't be able to put forward these questions because the numbers don't agree. Go die in a ditch, these 3 questions. We don't need you. Okay? That's why I love stats, because it's like we're dealing in a... This is 1900 hours, and I'll finish. But we're living in a world with tons and tons of like different perceptions of what reality actually is. And this is one of the ways that we could use to agree on something that's actually fucking there, and then maybe start talking about what's real and what's not. Okay? So, man, I hope this saves the world a little bit. There's a final slide. And I would like to QR code. No, that's not me. That's not me. That's not me. I would like to. You already know what it's to thank you forever. Okay, thank you forever.
You can go to my website, megatable.org. I teach statistics. There's a bunch of free videos. If you have if you have curiosity, if you're curious about this, I have a bunch of recorded videos that I would love to like send out to you for free, maybe for a contribution also, so I can eat some Pizza Hut at some point. Okay. Or Jesus Pizza in São Paulo, which is the good one. If you know, you know. Yeah, that's the shit. Thank you so much, guys. Psychometrics.
All right. So, why is low conscientious people more towards not having success in life?
It's a simple answer. It's like conscientiousness has 2 sub-factors. If you go down the rabbit hole of the Big Five, you'll see that every factor has sub-factors. So conscientiousness has orderliness and industriousness. They're 2 sub-factors. These differ, okay? Because the Big Five, they're the ones that actually seem to happen all over the world, like in many, many studies. You can find different sub-factors depending on the way that you phrase your questions. Like a particular scholar that I'm a fan of has 2 sub-factors called orderliness and industriousness. So orderliness is going to speak to how long does it take for you to get your room slightly dirty over time to a point that it's unacceptable. So like, your room's gonna get disorganized, messy, okay, over time. Some people think the threshold for cleaning is after 3 hours. They're very conscientious. Some people think it's 3 months, okay? So that's the orderliness. The other sub-factor is industriousness. So that one speaks more closely to your ability to delay gratification and get things done. So it's about discipline, it's about sitting down and getting the work through, right? Yeah, so that's how it predicts success. I think it's got a structure side to it, but it's got a getting things done side to it as well. Yeah?
Super, thank you. Next question.
I think you spent too little time dunking on Myers-Briggs. Maybe we should like speak about our massive crush on Jung, but I'm getting to the point. The reason I said that is that there is a certain correlation that Myers-Briggs herself, or Catherine Briggs, used to do with her, between her inventory and Jung's archetypes, right? So you think there's anything similar, perhaps, that we can do with the Big Five?
So, I love your question. Thank you for your question. I get that question a lot, actually. Can we, like, somehow the Hollywood happy ending requires that everyone rejoices together and, like, we bring some of Myers-Briggs over and we bridge Myers-Briggs with Big Five. So his question was, okay, Myers-Briggs bridges with Jung, so can we bridge Myers-Briggs onto the Big Five? I don't think so, because I think that Myers-Briggs lacks specificity in what's measuring exactly. If we go back to Myers-Briggs, so if we go back to Myers-Briggs, like some of the, okay. If we go back to Myers-Briggs, you'll see that my problem with Myers-Briggs is that, okay, this is a spectrum between thinking and feeling, for example. Who says this is a spectrum?
They would be the same thing.
They could, right, so like if Myers-Briggs were to measure thinking as one spectrum and feeling as another, I'm like, go ahead, measure it. But you just decided that these factors are what they are because you talked to your mom and she told you you were right. Literally, like, that's exactly what happened. So, like, not you, I mean, Myers-Briggs, you got it. But, so, some people try to bridge this, and I heard a podcast from once, somebody saying, oh yeah, we can totally bridge, like, Myers. Dude, conscientiousness means exactly this. It means exactly this. That's what it means. Does a thorough job, tends to not be lazy because it's reverse coded, does things efficiently. Bam! Like, that's black and white, very clear. Myers-Briggs get into zodiac sign territory because it's like, oh, I'm sensing because of the, and I'm like, okay, you want to measure sensing? At least measure that in a spectrum of sensing alone and then thinking alone. Because another example is like neuroticism and extroversion. So the last two, extroversion and neuroticism is the last one. So some people would argue that extroversion is positive emotion and that neuroticism is negative emotion. Okay, so let's put that on a spectrum from like negative to positive emotion. No, dude, how about people like me? Because I'm high in negative emotion and I'm also high in positive emotion at the same time because there's different things, right? So, yeah, I don't believe the Hollywood ending, and we can totally batch on Myers-Briggs together, man. We can get a baseball bat and just like, you know, put their faces. Maybe we can be a little less violent, but let's batch like verbally at them, remotely, with them being extra safe and unharmed. Let's thank them for their contribution to science in the 70s, which is when they did this. Yes? Got any other questions? Question? Else? We close up. Yay. Word up. Thank you.